Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubble.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the show. Johnny Million is with us. We had a nice little pre-show talk, chit-chatting beforehand. It's a lovely thing. Thank you guys for joining us every Saturday for this. Our dear friend Philip Ittner is going to be joining us for the second hour today.
What?
From California. If you
California. The Russians invaded California now.
That's right.
It's crazy.
It's full of Nazis, apparently.
That's true.
I'm kidding. James Woods is a different, but the James Woods Street in LA is not related to James Woods. I'm just saying, not that he's a Nazi, but I'm just saying he could play a really good one. Okay, there, I said it. He'd be great. You'd watch it and you go, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So I am, and by the way, Templeton, I'm literally tweeting it out right now. Make sure, let me know you got it. So this is, first of all, can we, I normally do the happy ending at the end of the show, obviously.
Sure.
And we will,
thus the name.
We will still do one.
Okay.
But I feel like we should start off with like a positive piece of instruction on one particular thing that I would stack in the Biden wins category. There are a few, there's an article, how to get your student loans forgiven step-by-step guide that has just been posted that gives you, and it's not a joke. You laughed like it's going to be a joke. It's not, this is serious.
Yeah.
But I do have the fart gun just in case
good.
We can make this entertaining unless you don't have a loan. All right. So.
Oh yeah. I've got my fart sound effect too.
I know. Yes. That's just you talking and saying the word fart. It's very,
That's what the haters will have you believe. It's just me saying the word fart.
That's true. It's not a talent that you have developed over time. Johnny Million, human inverted parrot. All right. So
we are on track.
We are. Okay. Number one, check if you're eligible. If you make less than $125,000 in 2020 or 2021, or if you're married and you and your spouse together made less than $250,000 and you took out a federal student loan prior to June 30th, 2022, because you can't go like, I'm going to take a load out and get some shave off that like at the last minute, right? You qualify for the forgiveness in it. The number to check is your adjusted gross income, your AGI, on your tax returns from either of those past 2 years. If you actually, like, believe me, if you're well below that, any number is fine. Pell Grant recipients will receive up to $20,000 in debt forgiveness, and holders of other types of federal loans will receive as much as 10. All federally held student loans, including undergraduate loans, graduate loans, spousal loans, and Parent Plus and Graduate Plus loans, are eligible. Borrowers should note that forgiveness is not per loan, but rather per borrower. So if you have multiple sources, it's across the band of the debt you have, not $10K off of everybody you borrowed from to get through your, your aquatic marine, response to sound and poetry graduate degree, PhD course that you took. You got kicked out of 7 different schools while screaming. They thought I was mad, but I'll show them. Your mad scientist degree. It's Dr. Evil. And 2, check if you need to fill out an application. The vast majority of borrowers will need to fill out an application to receive relief. However, around 8 million borrowers will automatically be enrolled in the program because the Department of Education already has access to your income information. So you may not even need...
They know everything.
They know everything because you've told them because you were trying to get help. So they know what you told them. Now, if I would say there is a caveat in this. If you are a Trump kid of any, if you ever got a student loan just as Trump, there's a chance that they might take it as rote that you lied on your income to get to secure a higher loan or federal benefits than you actually deserve. So I would say it's a very narrow percentage-wise, not really a blip. But those folks in particular, if you've ever pulled the same scheme your dad uses for property on your student loans, Trump kids, I would argue probably might have to fill out a form. I'm just kidding, because they're going to automatically kick you to the curb. It's about 6 million current students who recently fill out the free application for federal student aid, and another 2 million borrowers who have income-driven repayment plans. So if you're already paying by the amount. You know, if your payment is adjusted to your income, they already know what you're making and they know that you'll be forgiven. Most of the people, by the way, who do that, most of the people who do sign up for, income adjusted payments are under that $125,000 or under that $250,000 amount anyway. So that's why it will be relatively automatic. The vast majority, right? The Department of Education will contact borrowers who are automatically eligible to notify them. So keep an eye out in October. You will get a letter saying, congrats, 10K of your federal loan and 10K of your Pell Grant have been kicked off, approximately. Okay, sign up for the Education Department updates. The Education Department webpage, which is, of course, the ed.gov. Now, that has nothing to do with Bob Dole, just so you know. Some people might think that ed.gov is a site that Bob Dole started.
Poor Bob Dole.
Well,
all right. So I've only been to Las Vegas a couple of times, and one time I went to see Rip Taylor.
Oh yes, of course.
And he had the Rockettes open up for him. It was amazing.
He'd have to. The man is literally carrying glitter beautiful on him at all times. Yeah.
Yes, and the one joke I will always remember was this. Like it was an old joke. Even then, he said, "So does Bob Dole wear boxers or briefs?" Depends.
Oh, really? He actually did that one. Please tell me there was glitter after. I'm
there was glitter before, after, and during the punchline.
I want to do this is a personal dream, bucket list kind of thing. I want to do a biopic, but I want to of Rip Taylor, where but I want to do it like Mike Myers style, where I play multiple people, and I want to play like Paul Lynde and John Denver. And I want to play
every cool part.
Everybody who had one of those NBC celeb specials from like 1977 to 1979. And
you could just handle this by having an episode of the Hollywood Squares where you're like,
I mean, all the square, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. I might make that as a sketch just to go to each person, but and it's going to be called Battle of the Network Stars, I think is what it should be. Yeah. Remember the late night wars when they were talking about. Anyways, we're getting off track. All right, here's go. People, ed.gov, Bob Dole. Just remember Bob Dole and go to ed.gov and check. Then confirm with your loan servicer that your contract information is up to date. If you aren't sure who your loan servicer is, go to studentaid.gov. There's a link on ed.gov. You're welcome. Get your 2020 and 2021 tax returns so that if you need them. For that, like if you're not in the automatic thing, and decide if you want to consolidate eligible private loans, and if you do, start immediately. So if you've got multiple little loans that you took out that were part of your student loans, you can consolidate them under one federally accepted student loan. Private loans, including federal family education loans that are backed by the government but were originally held by private companies, are not eligible for relief. But borrowers with FFEL loans can consolidate them into direct federal loans in order to become eligible. So, and you don't have to rush to do it by October. You can do that over the next few months. And because of the timing of when you got it and how much you made in those years, then you will get the relief. It's not like, there's a chance if you don't vote that the Republicans will try to do something to rescind it or gut it or try to cut the center out of it. But I don't think so. I don't think they'll be able to do that. So anyways, number 6, check if you're eligible for a refund or any payments you made during the pandemic. So payments made during the pandemic pause can be refunded and then forgiven. So if you paid over the point and you're like, you might get money back. That's the only point where I think direct cash might go to individuals, is that you continued to pay during the pandemic, during the pause, because you were trying to bring it down and you were just getting ahead of it maybe, or you had a job that didn't get stopped by the pandemic. So check for that. And then the last one is weigh other forgiveness and repayment options. The one-time loan forgiveness plan isn't the only option available to debtors. Last October, the Department of Education announced a one-time expansion of eligibility for public service loan forgiveness. These are the people who became, nurses or did some sort of like NGO service, or were in the military, or they became police officers, EMTs, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of public service loan forgiveness elements in there, and they expanded that period as well. So if you did that kind of a job, this will stack on top of that. So go to studentaid.gov. That is a lot of information on that website, or ed.gov as well. And we're going to take a break and start talking about the regular news. But I thought that's one of the ways we can start up right away, so that people start, taking advantage of this. Use this, because that money that you're not going to have to pay there is believe me, you're going to spend it someplace else. But you're more than likely going to spend it on moving your life forward with the education that you have. And I hope what ultimately happens, and I'm sure a lot of my fellow Dems and certainly the president seems to feel, that the whole goal is to give people who've got an education a leg up in the future economy that's coming down the pike. And you guys can, that generation or the previous generation can start new businesses, and they can start moving towards the goals of what they want, more so than, if they, had that money, they had to put that money somewhere else. So anyways, we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide, now with 100% more tips to make your life better. Not the Bob Dole kind of tips. All right, we'll be back. That was wrong. I had to bail out midway through that.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Can I just say, I'm after the morning that we've had so far, just being, I think good citizens, that I fear that there'll be like kind of a backlash on maturity from Johnny Million when I read this next headline. And I think,
oh no, really? I'm doing it like when
right
you're
there.
not giving me anything to work with.
Hold on, I got to move myself in camera again.
If you want.
I'm just showing it to Johnny Million online first, and then I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Putin tells Europe, if you want gas, then open Nord Stream 2.
Hit me. There you go.
Yeah. Yes, I'm translating directly from his speech. So, this is obviously at the meeting of the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in Uzbekistan. Johnny, you've been to Uzbekistan, right? You've traveled a lot there.
Who hasn't?
Yeah.
By the way, the cat says I'm loud, and it could just be me.
Oh, well, no. I'll fix that. Hold on one second. It
Checking
might be,
1 2.
I think it's more that my mic is oddly turned down, because sometimes there are ghosts.
I hear you
There you
better
go.
now.
Oh, that's good. All right, good. Because I kept trying to keep it out of the red, and these meters are untrustworthy. I'm just saying.
Yes.
There's got to be a standard. I'm suing. All right, here we go. So the Putin is at this thing, the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which started as the Shanghai Five, I think, and this was an organization that was started after the fall of the Soviet Union, because China was almost entirely reliant on their border security in that region of the world, that side of their country, but from the Soviet Union. Literally, the fact that Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, and then the Russian border, basically they were protected all along that line from Middle Eastern terrorism and other stuff, because the Soviets kind of took care of it. These were Soviet satellite states, and they ruled them with an iron fist, and so the Chinese could kind of count on that being basically a wall. And then when in the collapse of the Soviet Union in 91, that was no longer a guarantee. So they started this, like meeting with these satellite states, including Russia and China, and then they were going to build this into their own. It was like a mini NATO, not to push back against Russian expansion or Chinese expansion through the Central Asia areas, like NATO arguably was for, or to stymie violence, really, but the other direction from Middle Eastern terrorism, and quite frankly, to squeeze Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kazakhstan and the other stands, quite frankly, between Russia and China, who would be aligned, keeping those guys kind of grouped in together, like in a big bear hug, so they couldn't go anywhere. So, so Russia's watching them from the back, Chinese watching them from the front, and both of them get the resources out of those countries, and the leadership of those countries can't go very far. They can't stray too far from the wants and needs of Russia and China. Not because all the problems we have sometimes with Germany and NATO, or Turkey in NATO, or France and Germany being up against each other in terms of trade and energy policy and that kind of stuff. Okay,
Sure.
That's normal. That's what happens when democracies align. This is, if you think you're equal to me, you're going to get pushed out a window. It's that kind of arrangement, right? So, in particular, like this group started out as an anti-terrorism group, and now they're trying to blow it out into a trade and technology sharing organization. So they met this week, through the last week, and the pictures of Vladimir Putin at this thing are hilarious. All the leaders he was meeting with were keeping him waiting. Remember the big story? I think it was the Turkish prime minister who kept him waiting earlier this year at one of the gatherings, outside the G20.
No, that's new to me. That's amazing.
So he's just sitting there fidgety and waiting and waiting and waiting. Okay, that's now the norm. So all of the leaders were kind of embarrassingly late to their meetings with Russia. Embarrassing for him.
Right.
And at this, I have to say, I showed some pictures on my live stream over the week, and he looks particularly pitiful at all these gatherings. This is not a leader who's dominant in this situation. If anybody has everyone's rapt attention in this, it's Erdogan. And it's because he's a member of NATO. Turkey's a NATO state. And so the ability to maybe slice Turkey off, get a slice of Turkey from NATO, which, lovely. But to get them to break away or weaken the alliance with NATO has strategic and economic importance for a lot of these other groups in the Shanghai group. And so he was pretty much holding court. Now, that's not based on a lot, because the inflation in Turkey is 86%. Yeah. And like I said, like they have two economies there. On the, above the table, it's US dollars and euros. Below the table, it's rubles, and their own currency is basically worthless. It's tissue at this point. And so when Russia was addressing these groups, he said, and I'm sure many people would find this hilarious and disgusting. He said that Ukraine does not want to negotiate.
Isn't that funny?
Is unwilling to negotiate. Now, Ukraine was willing to negotiate, we now know, leading up to the war itself, that Putin had sent one of his envoys over there. They had talked to them about maybe the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, getting permanent status, but the Ukrainians were like, yeah, but not Crimea, that kind of stuff. And so there was a conversation going about literally taking these two areas that that the Russians would later say are autonomous regions, which then they had Russian referendums to join Russia again. So they were there. This was definitely a 2-point strategy to usurp this land. But they were like, okay, you can have that, but you can't have Crimea, and move back there and consider it a solid border, get your troops out and that kind of stuff. And Russian-leaning citizens will have full Ukrainian citizenship here, and they'll have to act peacefully and all that stuff. Okay, well, that was rejected out of hand. We now know days before the attack, or days after the attack. That's the slippery part of this conversation. And the idea that being that effectively Putin sent this person in to give them the illusion that there wasn't going to be an attack. That literally this peace offer was to get Ukraine on the back foot about this. And so it now makes sense why Biden was saying they're absolutely going to attack. This is absolutely happening. And the Ukrainians seem to be thinking, well, maybe not. We're not sure. We're unsure. We don't think so. And Biden was like, they're moving medics to the front line. That means they're expecting casualties. They're moving medics to like real medical trucks, not just the teams with dummy gear, actual oxygen, plasma, stuff that spoils if you have it there, to the Belarusian border. They're coming to Kiev, and Kiev was going, I don't know, it didn't seem like, I mean, they do this a lot. Maybe this is just a ratchet up because they've been sending, well, we now know they sent this envoy, and it was basically a trap. As have been all of the negotiations Russia has put forward in all these situations. They had a spy at one of them. They poisoned 2 people in this, in one of the other meetings. And so Putin seems shocked, I tell you, that Ukraine is not interested in negotiating with him, and certainly not with sitting in the same room with the guy. Because there is no way Zelensky is guaranteed his safety in a room with Vladimir Putin and whomever Vladimir Putin decides to bring with him. It's just absurd. Especially when they know that Zelensky's not going to show up and kill Putin. It's not going to happen. If they have a negotiation, the Ukrainians would come in good faith. There is no guarantee, nor is there any logical conclusion by anyone who's sane that if the Russians show up, they're not going to exact some sort of damage on that situation. It's absurd. Ask Alexei Navalny. Ask the members of Pussy Riot. Ask any number of people who have simply protested this war, who are now in prison. Not jail, prison. 9 to 12 years. If they ever make it out, will we ever know? So, we shall see where this goes, but anyways, we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. There's some pillow news. Oh boy.
Can't wait.
Attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So if you follow me on YouTube, if you subscribe at infotainmentwars.com at our YouTube channel, you may have seen, or if you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen me post this video of me cracking up at Mike Lindell, the Mike Pillow, as we lovingly call him, relating the story of how on his way back from duck hunting in Iowa, he decided to drop by the Hardee's in his hometown in Minnesota.
Hardee's is the only fast food place I've ever gotten sick at.
Huh. Oh, congratulations, because I think I'm doing a like collect all 5 situation. It's years on the road. That's what it does. As a comedian, years on the road, they're going to get you. It's always Russian roulette, you know.
Yeah, and you just keep eating it. You're like, I don't think this is good.
Yeah, right. Is it anybody spell formaldehyde? What is that? I don't know. Anyways, I got to eat something or I'm going to get my blood sugar is going to tank, right? So he relates the story about he was driving through his hometown, got a little peckish, ordered his dude to pull over their car, now full of 9 dead ducks and some spent shotgun shells. and pull into this, and he got a mushroom and Swiss and a chocolate shake because he's an adult and with fancy tastes. And his buddy got something. He won't tell us. He just his buddy. He didn't even name his buddy. Poor Buddy. I'm just gonna call him Buddy.
Poor Buddy. What is Buddy?
I'm just
what
gonna,
did Buddy usually? What do you think Buddy ordered?
I'm going to assume, genuinely, that Mike Lindell does not know the name of any of his friends. You know what I mean?
It's like he vaguely remembers the shadow that was with him at the.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just kind of like this ghost of a. I'm pretty sure they were white. Might have had a mustache, tall, like kind of goofy. Wait, that was my reflection. No, who was it? All right. Anyway, so
I think Mike likes the chicken. I'm sorry, Buddy likes the chicken strips.
Yeah, Buddy gets chicken strips from there. I'm gonna. I think he bought him a kid's meal and just told him to shut up, because that's the kind of car, felt like if that's when Lindell calls shotgun, that's the kind of behavior you're going to get from him. So anyways, while he's there, a car blocks his front, another one pulls in behind him, another one pulls right up to the side, and the FBI says, "Get out of the car." And he goes, whoops, you froze for a second. There you are. So he goes, "Hey, who are you people?" Which is, lovely. And they say, "We're FBI." And he goes, "I don't believe you. Show me your badges." Because if you're going to rob the pillow guy, now, after he's lost one of his 3 planes and sold, umpteen properties and other things to pay for his ridiculous network, and he's skint on funds and losing big box stores, that's when you plan your big robbery.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No one will expect me to rob him when he's broke, that kind of thing. Like Trump, it's like one of those things like, I'm going to sue him for one of his properties. He doesn't own any of his properties. So he relates the story. And when he first tells the story, he's, as you might expect, rude and dismissive to the FBI agents, accuses them of being weaponized by the Gestapo Nazi police state and by the Attorney General of Colorado, which really has nothing to do with this, except for the fact that I think she is the one who put out the arrest warrant for Tina Peters, that Tina Peters was dodging when Mike Pillow flew her to his Cyberama and then hid her for 3 days and bragged about it on television, which is a crime. And it's a really baseline crime. It has nothing to do with the voting machines. It has nothing to do with what he said. It has nothing to do with
a fugitive.
That's right. It's as simple as that. And all you have to say is, I didn't know she was a fugitive. I didn't even know she was one of the people that was on my plane. We were just picking people up. She jumped on. We interviewed her, but I didn't know there was an arrest warrant out for her. And I obviously did not hire. Well, he admits to all of those things while the FBI are talking to him in a Hardee's parking lot. While, by the way, they are not there to convict him. They are there to subpoena him as a material witness. He's going to be a witness in a grand jury in Colorado to these effects. And he's got to surrender his phone because he was communicating with her. And the idea is they need to know, and this is pretty simple baseline legal stuff, folks. They need to know if he knew or if she was telling people that she was on the run from the law when they helped her leave the state. And that's going to be in the communications. If she's destroyed communications that say it, or she sent communications, but he never got them, so they can check his phone and he never saw the text or the email.
What did she do to be wanted by the FBI?
Okay, so she wanted to get the software from the Colorado voting machines. So she, long story short, she got, as the person running the elections in that county, in Mesa County, she had a guy who cleared the security checks and all that stuff, who was allowed to be there for the verified build. I'm missing the word on it right now, but that when they have a new election, the company that provides you with the machines comes in and they update the software, and they include in that update who the new elections, who's running for what in the upcoming election, right? That's kind of crucial because there's no nostalgia in a voting machine. And the machines are not where stuff is stored. It's not supposed to be stored. After it's done, You take what was on the machine, the data about the election itself, and you kick it over. And then in the trusted build, that's what it is. The trusted build, you update the software with new security updates, and then you put in the details about who the people are. And there's got to be someone present from the election commission to check and make sure, okay, that person's running for comptroller, and this person's running for school board, and this blah, blah, blah. And here's whatever, ballot initiatives and all that stuff have to be on there. And they use the same buttons and the same user interface. So they have to be just kind of swapped out for what was there, right? Because if it's governor, they've got a governor thing. You just you replace who's running this time for who was running last time. That stuff. Super simple. Really normal order of business. Of course, and by the way, the idea that the trusted build is supposed to be some sort of nefarious thing. When these people, by the way, who don't trust big tech and think the Democrats have control of big tech, all of them updated their phone last weekend without even batting an eye. So come on. Anyways, so she had a guy who the county had done their due diligence on this guy, and he got clearance as a technical advisor or whatever to come in and be there with her through this build. And then she took that guy's identification and gave it to a MAGA supporter that was engaged in this kind of, oh my God, the election was stolen from Donald Trump person. And that guy came in before the trusted build with her, copied the software that was on there and kept it, ran off with it, escaped the state with it. Well, again, if you gave the full benefit of the doubt that this was a whistleblower situation, that act alone, the act of stealing that stuff, thinking, Edward Snowdening your way in the situation, is still a crime. And you need it to be a crime for even perfunctory security to work. Because if you don't prosecute someone for doing something like that, then an actual criminal who actually wants to do harm, that's not a whistleblower, can go, well, you didn't even prosecute people. It's not even a crime, technically. Because if you're not prosecuting people for it, then I can do it myself. I want to know as a citizen, whatever. Like, they would have all these dumb excuses, why, and reasons why they
do this and take this into their own hands. They're like, I know, I'll interfere.
Right. By the way, I've gone over all the information and the cyberama and the absolute proof and absolute evidence and absolute chicanery and all the movies that Mike Lindell has done. I've gone through them on my channel, debunked them all the way through. Some of them took me 4 hours to do 45 minutes because anyways. So she brought this dude in using someone else's ID to commit a crime. And then she took that material out of state, and that guy also did it as well, uploaded it to the internet. And then Mike Lindell flew her to the cyberama, knowing full well that she had committed a crime, that they were looking for her for this crime. And then for 3 or 4 days was like, she's got to stay in hiding because the feds are looking for her. I'm like, that's a crime too. That's multiple crimes. It's like a crime every time the clock hits noon. And anyway, so all he has to do is play dumb. The problem is you can only play dumb if you're not dumb. And Mike Lindell, while he's not an innocent, gullible person like we originally thought, he's actually not a nice person. He's an idiot. He's right. KJ Paul in our chat. He's genuinely stupid. He's both ignorant to certain points of reality. He walks around with certain ideological blinders on that keep him, that self-segregate information out. But he also acts on that in an untoward way. He makes egotistical assumptions on his limited knowledge that make him commit dumb crimes. And that's exactly what happened. So the irony is that with all of this clamoring about free speech and election integrity and all this kind of stuff, none of this had anything to do with that. It was simply the material act of, there is a warrant for this person's arrest, and you help them escape justice. And now we need to know for this grand jury who gets charged besides her in helping. and you're going to be a witness, but you might end up being indicted yourself because all you got to do is go, yes, I knew. Yes, right. And Wes says, yes, and he is a blasphemer. I agree. I think because he wears his cross and he has all this stuff up and he says, this is the greatest revival for Jesus Christ in our lifetime. And he uses that as a closer because he knows it's a good manipulation point, not because he genuinely acts in any kind of Christian way, or he would just have been honest this whole time. It's just, we have to take a break. And I'm finding myself getting irritated just talking about the man. That said,
on your way out,
yes,
there's on Twitch, it's McVeigh 1979's birthday, and they're losing their mind trying to get your attention to wish them a happy birthday.
McVeigh 1979, happy birthday. Fantastic. And also,
thank you for sharing it with us.
Yes. And Daphne Farmer, thank you so much. She says, they say, Sparklers, if you're able, run, don't walk to get tickets to see Hal and Sexy Liberal Tour. You have not lived until you've seen Hal on horseback. Comedy gold, y'all. All right, that's true. That's I'm not going to mention any more.
I don't want to know about it. And if you come out to see Hal this in Chicago, you might see me.
That's right. If you do the meet and grope, I'm going to bring Johnny backstage, so you can. He'll be my my side grope. Something like that.
Yeah.
You'll be my stunt grope. That's what it is. Stunt grope. That's
right. I'll take it in the nuts when other people won't.
Easy. All right. We'll be back right after this. I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. And then you guys got loud.
The Hal Sparks Show.
Wow. And then a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Well,
it's gonna be good.
Welcome back to the show. So I think I'm just tweaking my volume at all times. That's what I'm going to be doing the whole time, and I'll lean away. That's what in case I get too loud. So JD Vance in Ohio is doing terrible. Trump is doing a rally for him tonight to try and like bring up bring the MAGA crowd back into the fold under JD Vance, get him supporting a candidate who once said of Trump, he could be America's Hitler. And and at that time, I don't think he meant it as a positive. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Maybe in the world of dog whistles, maybe that's what but he was pretty terrible. We also found out this week that Mastriano is not the only person running for office in Pennsylvania that is from New Jersey. Turns out Mastriano was registered to vote in New Jersey up until last summer.
All right.
Yeah. So summer of 2021, like he was deciding he was going to run in Pennsylvania, so they moved him to the state last year. He registered to vote in the state last year. So ridiculous. So that and again, we'll see him doing it too, because Oz is slipping in the polls. The idea that Walker and Warnock are close is sort of ridiculous, I think, and as a matter of puffery. I think when it comes down to it, no matter what the polls point to, the number of people showing up to vote for Walker is going to be pitiful.
I hope so.
Yeah. So while Republicans will try to make it look like, I support him. I'm going to. Ultimately, it's extraordinarily doubtful that they will that will amount to anything. That said, there will be this rally. I'm not covering the rally tonight on my live stream like I do sometimes, because as I was just telling Johnny Million, that there's sometimes when Trump does a rally and there's sort of news off of it. There's an announcement, or he's trying to make some case, or like right after the search and seizure of the documents at Mar-a-Lago, and by the way, I don't think they executed the search warrant at Bedminster and at Trump Tower yet. I'm counting on it. I'm convinced they're going to have to go to those properties, especially with the footage that was released this week of Trump getting on a plane to go to Bedminster carrying boxes with them that were identical to the ones that were in the closet slash storage thing with the unlatched padlock at Mar-a-Lago that was guarded night and day by Kash Patel. Maybe my answers are on the ceiling, Kash Patel. So that's just count on that happening at some point. They're going to have to. It'll be another blow up. My guess, after the midterms. My guess is that they are putting a pause on it for the details, and it'll take them a while because one of the things we now know from this, the filings this week and the release of a slightly less redacted form of the affidavit leading to the search and seizure warrant for Mar-a-Lago was that when the Trump crowd, the Trump organization, by the way, is the plaintiff in a bunch of these situations because Trump himself, on the one hand, where if Trump were to claim that he has the right to declassify whatever he wants and look at it and he's allowed and he can do whatever, that's one thing. But in this case, they are arguing that these are the possessions of the Trump organization as a corporation. That's a material impossibility. That's absurd. There might be legal documents, correspondence between him and his attorneys about legal problems that he has regarding his business or his person that he might put under the purview of, since my company pays my legal bills, that those things go into there. And the special master will parse out those, 30 pages of whatever. The rest of it, even if Trump thinks he has the right to these documents, which he does not, he can get a copy of them from the National Archives like every other president does, or them sign off on the original if they're going to be stored properly, which is the other thing that part of the expense of a presidential library is the fact that they have to have they're going to give them something special to put there. It's got to meet certain National Archives standards so it doesn't dissipate over time, right? So that's part of the cash that goes into a presidential library these days. The Truman Library in Kansas is one of my favorites. And the Reagan Library, I have a friend who works at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley here in California. And they're fascinating. I like them. I like them as a place to go as a part of history. We went to see the Ford Theater and then the Lincoln's where Lincoln died when we were in DC this last time. That kind of stuff is interesting. But you have to, if they're gonna have something special to look at, it's got to be taken care of. There's no indication that Trump was like putting them in a swampy storage room in the basement of Mar-a-Lago, where they clearly don't do standard maintenance on that dump, is concerning, even if you want the signed baseballs and shirts and stuff that are part of that preserved. He just doesn't care. Anyways, because he can't think of life without him in it is part of the problem. But honestly,
the main character.
Exactly. So anyways, he does, no matter what he feels about those individual documents, the documents themselves do not belong to the Trump organization. And the Trump organization is the one filing all these injunctions. So ultimately, it's going to fall apart on those measures. And especially when it comes to government documents. It's just stupid. It's a waste of time. They're treading water. Again, it's not going to stop anything else. And the FBI and the CIA and everybody, believe me, it didn't take them that long to look at the stuff, to know which ones were there, because they have copies of them. It's the copies that were in the wind they have to worry about. Now they know what was in the wind and what's still in the wind, then they can start the damage assessment, right? But they don't need the documents in their hands to do the damage assessment. So what the judge did will not stifle the ability for them to assess, the dangers of Trump, having these documents and having them out in the public, in terms of that she has not paused them from doing that damage assessment on that stuff. They already know. They already know everything that they knew within hours, because as soon as they checked these off a list, it's that document, it's that document, it's that document, because they already have them. He took a copy. There may be, in situations, personal notes he wrote on some of these documents that affect what was done, right? That's why he thought he could keep some of them, and why he didn't want the government to keep them is another thing too.
I see.
They didn't want to, he doesn't want people to see what he wrote. That's why he tears stuff up, because he makes notes on it after the meeting. He tears it up or eats it or flushes it and all that kind of stuff. So this, I am not concerned at all that Judge Cannon's, special master ruling will slow this down at all, or that Judge Deary, the judge that the NARA signed off on, because this is the judge that signed off on the Carter Page FISA warrant. I don't think they're that worried that this person is going to magically say Trump owns anything he wrote on while he was in office, and you can't have it. Presidential Records Act be damned. It's absurd. I am not worried. The only thing we have to worry about is voting. People need to make sure you're registered. Vote.org, iwillvote.org, either one. Make sure that your registration hasn't been booted. We are now within 90 days of the election, and it is crucial that you make sure that if there's a limit on the time when you can vote, if you need to vote early or in person, or you need to do it by mail, you start checking out all those things, and vote.org is the way to do it. That is how you will get in on this stuff. That's the way you will guarantee that we maintain control. Now, if the Republicans took the House, which they're not going to do, or took the Senate, which they're not going to do, they are still not going to be able to, reinstate Trump or vote for him. I mean, if the House was to vote for, well, we got to take a break, but if the House was to vote for him to be Speaker of the House, hilarity. Embarrassing for our democracy, a boon for comedians, but no impact materially on the rest of the world. He wouldn't even show up for work. We'll be back.